Welcome back to another segment of the journey where today we'll be flying Thai Airways business class from Bangkok to Frankfurt. I arrived at Bangkok airport with a tight connection until our 11:45 p.m. departure, so there was no time to visit the lounge before boarding started. Thai Airways business class on the Boeing 777 features a lot of business class seats, although it's divided across two separate cabins. We found ourselves seated in the mini cabin in seats 19A and 21A, two window seats that are closer to the windows rather than closer to the aisle. Now, despite the visually striking purple colors that Thai Airways uses in business class, it's fair to say that the 777 business class seat is fairly outdated. The seats are showing visible signs of wear and tear, like chips and scratches dotted around your surroundings. The features and functionalities of the seat are at least fairly complete. With the seat console next to you housing a surface space, a drink holder, and a reading light, there's a set of rather antiquated seat controls down by the side, USB and power outlets positioned underneath the entertainment screen and down by your legs respectively, an exposed tray table that's flush against the seat shell in front of you and folds down like so, and finally a fairly small storage compartment down at your seat level where a bunch of amenities have been shoved in unceremoniously. Cheers to Thai Airways business class. Honestly, not a great product at first impressions, but hopefully it gets better. It wasn't long after we boarded that we took off into the Bangkok night sky. And looking outside at the vibrant night scene of the Thai capital, I resolved that it wouldn't be long until I come back again. Now, as we reach cruising altitude, let's take a look at the amenity kit. It's quite a light offering with just a few items inside, and what's more, there was one notable amenity that was entirely missing from this business class experience. Now, this flight has been off to a pretty interesting start. For one, there's no menu for the business class meal, which is certainly a bold move by Thai Airways. But I'm still interested to see how the dinner service actually tastes. As I waited for my meal, I noticed one distinct advantage to the seat that I had chosen here in the bulkhead of the cabin. And the Thai Airways 777 is also one of those interesting products where there's a certain advantage to choosing seats in the first row of the cabin, because there's an extra storage space at the front where you can put your stuff. With a glass of iced tea in hand, my meal kicked off with a delicious amuse-bouche that consisted of a fusion between Western and Thai flavors. And that was followed with my choice of the main course, the Thai beef curry. The curry was simply delectable, and the meal services overall in this flight is an area that I really have to give Thai some very high marks. The dish certainly has a very strong kick to it, and as somebody who has a pretty high tolerance for spice, it's not often that I meet my match when on board an airplane. The noodles accompanying the curry were pretty tasty as well, and overall I really enjoyed the meal as I dug into it and finished off every bite. But I do just have to bring it back to my disappointment that there was no menu in business class. For me, flipping through the menu was one of the great pleasures of flying in a premium cabin, and so not getting that experience was really quite disappointing. I'm not sure if it's that way on every single Thai Airways business class flight these days, but certainly on this one, I wish there was a menu to go along with this great meal. Now, even though the beef curry packed quite a punch, thankfully I still had my iced tea in hand, which the Thai Airways crew was very proactive in topping up to help me wash everything down. And as soon as my tray was withdrawn, the cabin lights were dimmed, and it was time to settle in for a good night's sleep en route to Europe. Checking out some of the business class restrooms here on the Thai Airways 777. It's a pretty standard affair. You've got the baby changing table, you've got some amenities. Here there's hand lotion and even eau de toilette. And I guess there's extra rolls of toilet paper if you happen to run out. In lie flat mode, the Thai Airways 777 business class seat is no more special than when it's upright. No turn-down service was offered by the crew, unlike some of Thai's more illustrious fellow Asian airline peers, and so I simply put down my own blanket and laid down to rest. The footwells here are neither the largest nor the smallest. There's just this little curvature along the side that your feet will have to deal with as you toss and turn. Alright, well, it's just about time to go to bed here on Thai Airways business class. Now, this is obviously an overnight flight, so the emphasis is very much on getting some sleep before we arrive in Frankfurt in the early morning, and that's exactly the plan. I'm going to try to get as much sleep as I can because I do have another flight coming up after this, which is going to be a pretty big deal. So I'm going to pack up my stuff for now and try to get some rest. I'll see you in the morning. And with that, we went to bed just as we were flying over India and awoke just as we were over Turkey. Alright, I've woken up with about 2 hours of the flight left to go. Breakfast is being served soon, but I did ask them if they have any snacks. At first they're like, well, breakfast is being served soon. But then they came back and gave me a sandwich, which I suppose is better than nothing. I'm just saying, Thai Airways, if you had a business class menu, I wouldn't have to ask. Something else that Thai Airways didn't have on this flight was in-flight Wi-Fi, and so I simply passed the time by observing the night lights of small Eastern European cities as we overflew them, and by helping myself to a few cups of coffee as the pre-arrival meal service began. Now there is a Western breakfast option of a mushroom omelette as well, but I've gone for the Thai option of the egg noodles with chicken. For this meal, I was treated to Thai-style stir-fry noodles with chicken on the side. Certainly less memorable of a dish than the curry I had previously had, but still quite tasty nonetheless. Once again, it was the drink service that really shone through, as this time I was treated to a glass of anchan, otherwise known as butterfly pea flower tea, something you gotta try if you're flying Thai Airways in the future. So, something pretty interesting just happened. The cabin service manager came by and spent 10 minutes talking to me about the Thai Airways experience and all of the things they're doing to try to make things better for passengers during this special COVID-19 pandemic travel period. I did ask them about why there's no business class menus, and she mentioned that it's basically because of reducing touch points and preventing COVID transmission during the pandemic. Now, I do think it's worth pointing out that many other airlines around the world have already brought back their full service, including business class menus, but I guess Thai Airways has been a little bit more conservative in that regard. So hopefully the next time I fly with Thai Airways, maybe on the A350 or even in 777 first class that they've recently brought back, we'll see a more fulsome experience put together. But overall, besides the whole menu thing, I think this flight has been pretty solid. I just look forward to trying out one of the newer products in the future. And as the day broke over Germany as we completed this 12-hour overnight crossing, I was transfixed at the views outside of sunrise over Europe, a sensation I had missed for almost 2 years' time now as we made our landing into Frankfurt Airport. The sunrise views was a positive note on which to end a decidedly mixed experience here on Thai Airways business class. The airline impressed me with its food and drink on board my first long-haul business class flight with them. However, the seat was certainly outdated here on the Boeing 777, and I was quite miffed at the lack of soft services like Wi-Fi and a business class menu. Even as much as Thai Airways says that this is based on reducing touch points during the pandemic, I very much think it's high time to bring them back. Overall, this flight served me well enough, and I do look forward to flying Thai Airways on a newer product in the future, where hopefully the experience will be a few notches better. Alright, in the end, that was quite a nice flight with Thai Airways. There's no time to waste though, because from here in Frankfurt, the next flight, Singapore Suites, is very exciting. You can check out that video on screen right now when it's ready, and I'll see you over in that video.